Welcome to the Excel tutorial part 2. I'm going to talk about creating equations. There's quite a lot to get to here, but first, if you click on this plus icon down here at the bottom, you can add a new sheet to your Excel worksheet, and you can also double click on it and give it a name. This is a good way to keep your work organized, especially if you're taking notes or creating yourself a template. First thing I'm going to do is create an X and a Y column. It's a good idea to label your rows when you're dealing with a lot of steps. Every equation in Excel starts with an equal sign. After that, you can enter numbers and mathematical operators to create your equation. So I could do something simple like 1 plus 2 and get my answer 3. What I really want, though, is to use other values in the Excel template, Excel sheet to create my equation. So I'm going to use this value x by clicking on it, and that does what's called a cell reference. You can see the C corresponds to the column and the 5 corresponds to the row. I'm going to multiply it by 2. And then if you remember this replication operation, this green dot right here, I'm going to drag that down and that'll copy that equation down. So now if I double click on any of these equations, you can see that the reference is shifted down as I copied that equation down. It goes from C9, C10. So double clicking an equation is a great way to edit it or to see where your references are at. You can go back and move these references around if you want to, but I'm going to leave it right there. Okay. One of the more important features of Excel is their built-in functions, and there are a lot of them. So for example, I can type equals sum, and then I can either click on this or do an open parenthesis. If you're interested in other functions, they give little descriptions of what they do. Now it's asking here for multiple numbers. You can either do them comma separated like this. You can pick any ones that you want. But in this case, I just want to add up all of the values in this column. So I'm just going to click and drag and see here it's referencing values from C5 to C14. That's 1 to 10. Close parenthesis and enter. And there's your answer right there. If you're ever wondering what function to use, you can either just try typing what you think it might be. So for example, if I wanted to average these numbers, start typing the word average, there's a function right there. If that doesn't work, then try Googling how to blank in Excel and you should get your answer. If you've already created an equation and you want to go back and edit it, you can double click it at any time and add new things to the equation. Let's say I want to add a value right here. So let me put a value here. I'm going to add 1. You can see that this auto updated when I changed this value. That's the nice thing about Excel equations is after you set up the equations, the cells that they reference, when those change, the equation output will also change automatically. So I'm going to call this K. So now I can see, you can see I change this to 2, and this will automatically update. Now suppose I wanted this to propagate all the way down. I could do this, recopy the equation down, but what you'll notice is that this reference right here is shifting down and it's no longer on that 2. So this is a case where I want one of the references to shift, but I want the other one to remain fixed. There's 2 ways to do a fixed reference in Excel. One is to put a $sign before the number. That'll make it static vertically. If you put a $sign before the letter, it'll make it static horizontally, but you're rarely ever shifting equations left and right. So I'm just going to put that there, hit enter, and then if I copy this down, you will see that the blue reference for X is moving, but the reference to K stays fixed. Another way to accomplish the same thing is to click a cell once, go up here to the top left where it says name block, and just change this to anything, call it K. Now I can actually, instead of using this cell reference, I can just type K, and you see it knows what cell to use now, and this will automatically be a fixed reference. So if I copy this down, these will all be referencing K. A couple more things to note. If you accidentally make a modification to an equation and you want to eliminate that modification, just hit the escape key on your keyboard and it'll undo whatever change you were making. When you want to complete an equation that you added a change to, push the enter button. At any point, if you've made a change that you want to go back on, use Control-Z, that's the undo hotkey, or use this button right here. And then lastly, you'll note if you copy and paste a bunch of equations, it'll shift all the references unlike it does when you replicate them. So if you ever want to shift equations, you need to use a cut and paste. That's Control-X and Control-V. That way it keeps the references in the right spot.